Saruman the White, once revered and trusted, stood as the chief opponent of Sauron in Middle-earth. He was the head of the White Council, the leader of the Astari, and the figure deemed by most to be the greatest hope for victory over the looming shadow of Mordor. Yet darkness gradually crept into his heart. And as his allegiance slowly changed, this shift remained undetected by most, but not all. There was one who foresaw Saruman's deceit. But who was this mysterious figure? And why were his warnings not heeded by the wise? Let us uncover the whispers of suspicion, the quiet warnings ignored, and discover the moment when Saruman's treachery first began to reveal itself, as we uncover the identity of the one who knew. For many years, Saruman dwelled in the east along with the two elusive blue wizards. Here, he studied the ways of Sauron. Meanwhile, Gandalf and Radagast lingered in the west, steadfast and watchful, tending to the lands they had come to cherish. Gandalf fostered friendships with men, elves, dwarves, and hobbits, whilst Radagast tended to the birds and beasts. Saruman, on the other hand, devoted himself to contesting Sauron more directly. Consequently, in the mysterious reaches of the East, Saruman extensively studied the devices of the Dark Lord, consumed by a thirst for knowledge that could one day be used to challenge Sauron. It was around the year 2463 of the Third Age when Saruman finally re-emerged from the East. His return coincided with the waning of a tenuous period of peace. For a growing darkness stirred once more in the heart of Mirkwood, spreading its poisoned tendrils like a malevolent force long denied. Therefore, the timing of Saruman's return may have been purposeful, for, with the return of Sauron, the ring would undoubtedly seek to return to its master, revealing itself as it abandoned or betrayed its current bearer. In response to this growing shadow, the White Council was formed, a potent assembly of wisdom and power. The council stood as a bastion against the rising tide of evil, its members bound by their shared resolve to stand against the encroaching storm. At its helm sat Saruman, whose knowledge of the Dark Lord made him a natural leader for this council. Ever most vigilant was Mithrandir, and he it was that most doubted the darkness in Mirkwood, and he went to Dol Guldur, and the sorcerer fled from him, and there was a watchful peace for a long while. But at length the shadow returned, and its power increased, and in that time was first made the Council of the Wise that is called the White Council, and therein were Elrond and Galadriel and Círdan, and other lords of the Eldar, and with them were Mithrandir and Curunir. And Curunir, that was Saruman the White, was chosen to be their chief, for he had most studied the devices of Sauron of old. In the year 2759, Saruman the White turned his calculating gaze toward the realm of Rohan. His journey was one of singular purpose, for to the northwest of Rohan lay the ancient stronghold of Isengard, which now stood vacant. For half a century, this mighty citadel had languished in the grasp of the Dunlendings. However, during the rule of King Helm Hammerhand, the Dunlendings of Isengard endured immense hardships. They were caught in the relentless storm of war with Rohan and the bitter grasp of the long winter. Thus, their strength wavered, and they were ultimately driven out by Helm's nephew, Frealaf, who was soon to be crowned the next king of Rohan. Saruman, sensing an opportunity, offered to hold the fortress as an ally to the realms of men. In Gondor's steward and Rohan's king, he found men who, like many, still revered his reputation as a steadfast servant of wisdom and virtue. Neither suspected the shadow within his mind. They saw only an ally, a steadfast guardian of the free peoples, and so they willingly relinquished the stewardship of this pivotal stronghold to Saruman. Isengard was of profound strategic worth. To hand it over was a testament to their trust, a gesture that spoke of their unwavering belief in Saruman's loyalty. Were there even a whisper of doubt in their hearts, Orthanc would never have been relinquished to him. In this way, Saruman began to behave as a lord of men, for at first he held Isengard as a lieutenant of the steward and warden of the tower. But Freolaf was as glad as Beren to have this, and to know that Isengard was in the hands of a strong friend. A friend he long seemed, and maybe in the beginning he was one in truth. Though afterwards there was little doubt in men's minds that Saruman went to Isengard in hope to find the stone still there, and with the purpose of building up a power of his own. But as Gandalf moved against the shadow lingering in Dol Guldur, shockwaves ran through the fragile web Saruman had woven, driving him into a perilous dance where his carefully veiled ambitions lay closer to the surface than ever, teetering on the brink of revelation. In the year 2850, Gandalf braved the shadowed halls of Dol Guldur alone for the second time. Within its oppressive gloom, a malignant presence resided, one that could not be mistaken. Sauron had returned. Gandalf brought his grave news to the White Council, urging immediate action against the growing darkness. Yet, the persuasive voice of Saruman coiled through the room like a serpent. His words, artful and beguiling, stilled the urgency in the hearts of those gathered, and the call to arms was silenced. This fateful meeting may have caused the first glimmers of Gandalf's unease towards Saruman. In Unfinished Tales, Christopher Tolkien delves deeper into this shadow of doubt, shedding light on the potential fractures forming in Gandalf's trust. In the Tale of Years, the entry for 2851 refers to the meeting of the White Council in that year, when Gandalf urged an attack on Dol Guldur, but was overruled by Saruman, and a footnote to the entry reads, "It afterwards became clear that Saruman had then begun to desire to possess the One Ring himself, and hoped that it might reveal itself, seeking its master, if Sauron were let be for a time." The choice of the word "afterwards" in this quote casts a deal of ambiguity over the timing of this revelation. Did the council, even in the immediate aftermath of this fateful meeting, begin to sense the treachery stirring in Saruman's heart? Or was the truth unearthed much later, long after deeds were done and trust was long betrayed? It seems more likely that the truth remained shrouded for many years. Consider Gandalf's account at the Council of Elrond. There he recounted his imprisonment upon the pinnacle of Orthanc. In his words, there is no trace of prior suspicion, no hint that he had already sensed the twisting of Saruman's purpose. "Who told you, and who sent you?" I asked. "Saruman the White," answered Radagast, "and he told me to say that if you feel the need, he will help. But you must seek his aid at once, or it will be too late." And that message brought me hope, for Saruman the White is the greatest of my order. Saruman has long studied the arts of the enemy himself, and thus we have often been able to forestall him. It was by the devices of Saruman that we drove him from Dol Guldur. It might be that he had found some weapons that would drive back the Nine. "I will go to Saruman," I said. In the same chapter, Gandalf returns to the tale of his encounter with Radagast, confirming that, at the time, no shadow of suspicion clouded his trust in the White Wizard, stating that Radagast's message, delivered with a sense of genuine care and duty, was innocent. Thus, Gandalf trusted the words, the messenger, and most fatally, the one who sent the message. At first I feared, as Saruman no doubt intended, that Radagast had also fallen, yet I had caught no hint of anything wrong in his voice or in his eye at our meeting. If I had, I should never have gone to Isengard, or I should have gone more warily." Gandalf reveals here that had the faintest shadow of doubt stirred in his mind, he would have trodden with far greater caution, confirming that up until his imprisonment, Gandalf harbored no suspicions towards Saruman at all. 12 more years would pass before the final gathering of the White Council took place. During these years, Saruman's mind would darken further. Tolkien offers us a glimpse into the inner workings of the White Wizard's mind at this time, casting light upon his shadowed intentions. Certainly after the last White Council, 2953, his designs towards Rohan, though he hid them, were evil. He then took Isengard for his own, and began to make it a place of guarded strength and fear, as though to rival the Barad-dûr. Saruman had now sunk so deeply into shadow that his thoughts had turned to malice. His ambitions reached far beyond the mere lust for Sauron's ring. He now harbored ill will towards the people of Rohan. Yet his true intent still remained undiscovered and unchallenged. But even the sharpest deceiver cannot escape detection forever. Before long, a figure would rise, whose eyes would begin to pierce the fog. In 2952, Aragorn learned of his true identity as the heir of Isildur. Soon after, he would embrace his destiny as he stepped into his rightful role as the 16th chieftain of the Dúnedain. Between the years 2957 and 2980 of the Third Age, Aragorn would steadfastly defend the West against the shadow of Sauron and his allies in any way that he could. In these long years, yearning to shroud his true identity, Aragorn donned a number of aliases and earned acclaim under these mysterious names. Draped in a cloak adorned with a silver star, he moved with a swiftness and possessed a sharp vision akin to that of an eagle. Hence, the name Thorongil emerged, which, in the ancient tongue of Sindarin, translates to Eagle of the Star. As Thorongil, he first served under King Thengel of Rohan, the father of King Theoden. Then, his path led him to serve the steward Ecthelion II of Gondor, who, besieged by the encroaching darkness of Mordor, desperately sought stalwart men to safeguard the realm. Thorongil also rose to greatness in the midst of battle, mastering the ways of both land and sea, a leader whose mere presence inspired awe and reverence. Through great deeds of valor and wisdom, Thorongil rose in the esteem of the steward of Gondor, his heroism casting a light upon the shadowed days of men. The steward, Ecthelion, found in him more than a mere champion, for Thorongil's mind was as sharp as the sword he bore, tempered with a heart unyielding in its loyalty to Gondor. And so Ecthelion took note when Thorongil spoke to him regarding the White Wizard. To all others, Saruman's wisdom was a beacon, but Thorongil saw a fracture in the gleaming facade. Thorongil urged the steward to trust instead in Gandalf the Grey, a figure less adorned with grandeur but steadfast as the mountain's stone. In Gandalf, Thorongil saw hope unclouded, a guide whose counsel might yet lead Gondor through the long night to come. Thorongil often warned Ecthelion not to put trust in Saruman the White in Isengard, but to welcome rather Gandalf the Grey. Thorongil had somehow pierced the veil, his faith firmly placed in the Grey Pilgrim, even when the world yet hailed the White Wizard as a savior. This counsel spoke not only to Thorongil's wisdom, but to his courage in questioning what others dared not. It is remarkable that Aragorn could sense the shadow within the heart of the White Wizard this early on. Even the wisest of the White Council, who stood far nearer to Saruman in both counsel and confidence, failed to discern the subtle stirrings of his betrayal. Yet Aragorn saw what others could not. It is important to note that, at that time, Saruman's descent into darkness was as yet less than a whisper on the wind. It would be at least a decade before he began secretly breeding his vile orc hybrids, a practice that did not begin until around 2990. And it was not until the year 3000 that Saruman dared to confront the forbidden power of the Palantir of Orthanc, his ambition tethered to its shimmering, treacherous gaze. And finally, in 3018, Saruman's mask finally fell. There, in Orthanc's shadowed tower, he laid bare his betrayal, declaring his treason openly. For Aragorn to have harbored distrust of Saruman for 50 years before the truth was exposed is extraordinary. So how did he perceive Saruman's treason before all others? Perhaps it was his time in Rohan, serving under King Thengel, that offered him glimpses of Saruman's machinations. Yet we know so little of Aragorn's days in Rohan that any theories around this time in his life are unreliable. What we do understand more clearly is the depth of Aragorn's character, his rare ability to read the winding currents of time, his unyielding vigilance, and the quiet, resolute wisdom that marked him as a leader. It is in these qualities, rather than in hearsay, that the answer may lie. Aragorn's extraordinary heritage endows him with certain gifts, a legacy woven deep into his being, a reflection of ancient power and destiny. Among these gifts is his remarkable capacity to heal. When Faramir lay stricken by the insidious malady known as the Black Shadow, a sickness born of the Nazgul's dread, only Aragorn's touch could bring him back from the brink. Yet healing is not his only inheritance. The blood of his Dunedain ancestors bestows the gift of prophecy, a sight that stretches beyond the confines of time. Some years before his birth, Aragorn's grandmother Eowyn foretold that their grandchild would rise as a beacon of hope for their people. And Aragorn's grandfather Dirhael foresaw the untimely fate of Aragorn's father. Similarly, Aragorn's mother Gilrain bore the same gift of foresight, and this mantle passed to her son. The tales of Middle-earth are studded with moments when Aragorn's prophetic insight pierced the veil of time. He foresaw Gandalf's peril in the shadowed halls of Moria, warning of the abyss that awaited. "I too once passed the Dimril Gate," said Aragorn quietly, "but though I also came out again, the memory is very evil. I do not wish to enter Moria a second time." "And I don't wish to enter it even once," said Pippin. "Nor me," muttered Sam. "Of course not," said Gandalf. "Who would? But the question is, who will follow me if I lead you there?" "I will," said Gimli eagerly. "I will," said Aragorn heavily. "You followed my lead almost to disaster in the snow and have said no word of blame. I will follow your lead now, if this last warning does not move you. It is not of the ring, nor of us others that I am thinking now, but of you, Gandalf. And I say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware." And on the eve of departing Helm's Deep with the Grey Company, he spoke to Eomer of their fateful reunion, a battlefield looming between them. And so at length, Eomer and Aragorn met in the midst of the battle, and they leaned on their swords and looked on one another and were glad. "Thus we meet again, though all the hosts of Mordor lay between us," said Aragorn. "Did I not say so at the Hornburg?" "So you spoke," said Eomer, "but hope oft deceives, and I knew not then that you were a man foresighted. Yet twice blessed is help unlooked for, and never was a meeting of friends more joyful." And they clasped hand in hand. "Nor indeed more timely," said Eomer. "You come none too soon, my friend. Much loss and sorrow has befallen us." "Then let us avenge it ere we speak of it," said Aragorn, and they rode back to battle together. Even in matters of the heart, Aragorn's gift held sway. When he confessed his love for Arwen to Elrond, a vision bloomed unbidden in his mind. He beheld the stark choice that would one day confront her: the eternal shores of the undying lands, or the fleeting mortal beauty of Middle-earth. In that moment, the weight of his destiny and the gravity of their love became achingly clear. "I see," said Aragorn, "that I have turned my eyes to a treasure no less dear than the treasure of Thingol that Beren once desired. Such is my fate." Then suddenly, the foresight of his kindred came to him, and he said, "But lo, Master Elrond, the years of your abiding run short at last, and the choice must soon be laid on your children to part either with you or with Middle-earth. These gifts, entwined with his bloodline, are not mere abilities, but echoes of a timeless purpose. They bind Aragorn to the fates of those around him, a steward of healing, a harbinger of destiny, and a bearer of hope in a world fraught with shadows." So, as we can see, Aragorn's gift of foresight wove itself deeply into the heart of the tale, guiding him to truths veiled to all others. Thus, it is likely that his vision was able to offer him an insight into the future betrayal of the White Wizard, where all other understanding faltered. Saruman, ever cunning and deliberate, concealed his betrayal with masterful precision. Every step was measured, every lie shrouded in the semblance of virtue. The world saw him as a beacon, elevating him to lead the White Council and granting him the stronghold of Orthanc. It could only have been through such rare and extraordinary foresight that Aragorn discerned the devil within the robes of the wizard. Yet, even his warning could not halt the White Wizard's rise. Slowly, the fortress of Isengard became a forge for conquest, and the dark harvest of his labor emerged in the form of the Uruk-hai. And in the year 3019, as Rohan burned, Aragorn, the one man who foresaw Saruman's treachery, returned to witness his prophecy fulfilled. And so, Aragorn's blade came once more to the defense of Rohan. Thank you very much for tuning into Realms Unravelled. We would like to take this opportunity to light the beacons and call for aid. If you did enjoy this video, we would ask that you kindly click the like button below. Also, we would be very grateful if you would consider subscribing and clicking on the bell icon. And until next time, farewell, fellow explorers of Middle-earth.